Wow, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another episode of the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and hopefully we're going to dig into all kinds of cool, weird stuff that it's kind of why I named it the Paranormal Portal. Because we cover the paranormal. What is the paranormal? Well, I know a lot of people like to say, well, that's mostly ghosts, but no, it's whatever's not normal is basically qualified as paranormal. So we're going to cover as much of it as we can fit into 2 hours tonight. Hopefully I'll mildly entertain you on the way. That's my objective. I didn't turn on the ghost radar, did I? I knew I was forgetting something. I was doing really good too, but turns out the ghost radar was not on. So let's turn it on and just see if we can find out if we are being visited. There we go. And now that is running. So again, as we've been using the ghost radar for a while here on the shows, and I realize that for the most part, these programs are mostly gimmicky and silly. This one I've had for literally about 15 years. It still works good. It was built back early in the game when I think people were sincerely trying to, develop tools. I think a lot of them out there now are real hokey and goofy. I think there's still some good ones out there, but this has been a good one. I've had it for years and it still works. So as my dad used to say, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. My God, look at all the green in here. There's so much green. You know what that means, folks? That means we're just so many members here on our YouTube channel are present for the live show. So thank you guys for that. Hi, Mom. Good to see you. But getting back to the ghost radar, do I think that everything it tags is or alerts to is paranormal? No, I don't. But to revisit the science a little bit, in paranormal ghostly investigations, a lot of times investigators rely on the detection of electromagnetic fields, EM fields that seem to be transitory. They're kind of there and then they're not. They're moving around. It's anybody's guess what's exactly going on there. Oh, Paradox Fossil remembered. Thank you, brother. Thanks for remembering. I should probably find a shorter sound effect for that, but for the remembering, but appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. But is that for sure indicative of a paranormal presence? No, but it's one tool in the toolbox of investigation. So I'm a big believer, a big proponent of utilizing many methodologies to try to get consistent hits, because individually they might be ambiguous, but collectively it may really demonstrate some strange phenomena going on. So, as on some of these nights we do live investigations on the show where I'll set up on the table over there, I'll set up several different methods and tools that are used. And we've gotten several great triggers consecutively.
Use.
What are you saying? Use. Yeah, you guys use them. The Ghost Radar says use. And I mean, they're there for you guys to use, those of you that are visiting spectrally or in spiritual form. So we've got some great stuff. But individually, any of those methods would be, they can be intriguing, and they could certainly lean towards paranormal presence. But collectively, when we get triggers, that really is where the money is in it for me. That's the money shot. That's the, wow. What are the odds of that? One thing triggering is powerful, but several things triggering, I think, is much more convincing. But with these ghost radars like that you have on your phone and you have on a computer, they do detect electromagnetic fields, but it's in a very specific range. In other words, anything that you have that uses wireless technology, and certainly phones do that, as do laptops and desktop computers can communicate wirelessly, but they have in them what's called a magnetometer. And a magnetometer is how it's communicating, but the magnetometer is keyed towards a very specific frequency range. So when you're paranormal investigating, you got a K2 meter or many other different variants of that detect anomalous EM fields. They are much broader, but this is a very specific range of frequency, and it can detect in 3D space where an EM anomaly is. So that's the basis behind the ghost radar. As you just heard, it does also have a word database. 99.9% of the time, most of the words it spits out, I think, are just silly or ridiculous. I mean, something appears to be triggering it to spit out a word, but the words are very rarely relevant or have any bearing at all. You know, I can be talking about, possession or something, and the word squirrel will come up. It's like, wow, that had nothing to do with anything I'm talking about, but it is it's another tool. So I put it up on the screen as just a little bit fun, because honestly, I think by virtue of just discussing this stuff, we have the tendency to possibly draw it to us. There's the idea that when you speak of things, you are making a magnetic attraction of sorts. Not really magnetic, but you know what I'm saying. It just, energy begets energy, or energy follows intention, that kind of whole thing. So, so it's up there on the screen. Maybe we'll get some hits. Like we just got use on there when I was talking about the ghosts tools that I set up, or detection tools. Is it relevant? Yeah, that one kind of seemed more relevant. That one was a little surprising. Last show I did, I was reading an article by our wonderful paranormal journalist, Mr. Brent Swanser, and he was citing some 1800s articles and books that were talking about vampires in the UK. And it was really hard to read, first of all, because Old English is very tricky. It's like the sentence structure that we use every day is so foreign to them, and their sentence structure is very foreign to us. It's very eloquent and probably much more proper than we use today. But in the ghostwriter, I spit out the word prose, Prose. And I thought, God, that's kind of relevant. So sometimes it does kind of spit out some interesting stuff. So we'll keep an eye on that throughout the night, as always. I think it's just fun. Just another fun thing to put up there. And there was a period of time I wasn't putting the Ghost Radar up, and many of you guys was like, hey, bring the Ghost Radar back. So there it is. It's back, and it's been back for several shows now. But we got a lot to get to tonight. Of course, we're going to do the news in short supply here. What happened? What? Oh. That's funny. Mom sent me a message and her autocorrect took over. Mom's always watching. My mom is in Minnesota, and she's always a regular on the show. But this is kind of funny. She sent me a message. She likes to point out things just to make sure I don't miss them. Like if some of you give us just a super chat, Mom will often send me a text. Let me know so I can catch it in case I'm reading and haven't seen it on the chat. And this time she said, Hardwick has been Benadryl member for 11 months. So she was trying to say has been a member, but it replaced that. Her autocorrect put in Benadryl instead. So Hardwick, thank you for being Benadryl for 11 months. You are amazing. Absolutely amazing. I don't know what it takes to be Benadryl, but by God, you're killing it. Hitting the Benadryl hard, Chucky says. Autocorrect. You gotta love autocorrect. Anyway, that's not what I said. That's not what you said. I know, but it's what I got. So I read it verbatim, Mom. I know you didn't say Benadryl. I knew it was autocorrect. I know how these things work. So we're gonna do the news. After that, let me have another drink. I find the drink is more soothing and satisfying when you play the bottle like a trumpet. The inside scoop on that, by the way, I'm not doing that to be just randomly obnoxious. I was doing it to be intentionally obnoxious because I got somebody left me a real crappy comment once. Like, oh, that's a good show, but God, it's giving me crap about the snapping of the plastic bottles. So, so now I just give them an extra refrain or an extra chorus of my drinking bottle because I love you. I love y'all. Okay, so we got the news. We're going to get to the Discord question of the week. By the way, I almost couldn't launch Discord before the show. It was all flaky for a minute there, and I was like, ugh. But I got it open so we can do the Discord question of the week. We're going to do some weird, wonderful stories, and we'll hit the cryptid corner to round it all off. So we got a full boat of fun here on the portal. And by God, we're going to set sail. All right. So I know I'm just an idiot. I just have a microphone. You guys are stuck with my stupidity until this is over, unless you choose not to stay. But that'd break my heart, and I'd feel real sad. If you want to ask yourself, should I leave? The answer is no. It's the no button. Minion gave me that for my birthday. So, do not leave. You're not allowed. Okay. We are going to get to the news and just see what the hell else we find out. Hopefully I'm going to educate you on something. The object for the news is that it's not all paranormal, but it's all hopefully interesting. And hopefully you leave the news learning something you didn't already know. But let's get into it. Are you ready, folks? It's time to educate. Most trusted news, ladies and gentlemen. The most trusted news. All right, without further ado, welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk. I'm your anchor, Brent Thomas, as well as your host. So I'm wearing a lot of hats here. And oh no, by the way, we don't have a co-host tonight. Sheldon couldn't make it tonight. He just had a hell of a long day, and so he sends his apologies, but he's with us in spirit. And so with that in mind, it'll just be you and I. So keep the conversation rolling, guys. Pay attention. I might need you. It gets a little heavier when it's all me. So let's get to the news. I've curated several articles for hopefully your enjoyment. And we'll see how I did here in just a moment as I pull up the first article tonight, coming from a site called unexplained-mysteries.com. And again, please support this site. They're doing a phenomenal job over there. And it's current, timely, relevant. And they got so many different segments of interest. Right now, the first story is going to come from the world of the bizarre. And this is a bizarre story. This one's pretty crazy, folks. This is one of those, I don't know. I haven't read it, but it sounds really cool. Let's see what it says. The first one up tonight is coming from unexplained-mysteries.com. Man miraculously survives attack after 2 bullets ricochet off of his head. Whew. That's a hell of a skull, brother, whoever you are. Thank God for that. And then they show a skull. The picture is a skull. A man in Mexico City recently survived being shot twice in the head thanks to a freak combination of circumstances. According to reports, the man who had been walking through the city's Gustavo A. Madero neighborhood was suddenly approached by someone carrying a firearm. Before he knew it was happening, the assailant had fired 2 rounds at his head. Oh, man. I mean, that guy wasn't even going to talk about it. Oh, that's disgusting. Incredibly, though, both bullets ricocheted off his skull, leaving him only with minor flesh wounds. Wow. That's some calcium there, buddy. Good job. While it's not clear exactly how this could have happened, some reports have suggested that the age of the bullets, combined with the small caliber of the gun, may have impacted their effectiveness. Still very much alive, the fortunate man was able to flag down security guards who arrested the attacker. Wow, that's pretty powerful. It remains unclear exactly why the perpetrator had shot him in the first place. Yeah, was it a robbery or what the hell was the purpose? Maybe that guy was just angry at the world. Just wanted to hurt something. That's pretty tragic. But it's got a great ending because they both bullets bounce off. That's incredible. I mean, even if you have like a 22 caliber, like a long rifle, 22 long rifle, which is a very, very small bullet as far as bullets go, that's still traveling like super fast. I don't know if I think it's still a subsonic round. I don't think it goes faster than the speed of sound per se, but it's traveling, hundreds of feet per second. And even being little like that, you think maybe, it may not have the mass but it seems to have had the velocity. I've shot 22 long rifle for, ages, or ever since I was a kid. And you can shoot like 2x4s and it'll go right through them, like, pow. Or at least pretty thick wood. Maybe not a 2x4, but still. Our skulls are not exceptionally thick, so that's just a wonderful story. So I'm glad the guy was okay. I don't know what the hell that was all about, but that's a great ending to an otherwise what would be a extraordinarily tragic story. But anyway, maybe he knew the guy. Maybe it was personal. We don't know. Maybe the guy had it coming. I don't know if there's such a justification, but it's really weird to think, is this a random event? He just walked up and just started plugging some guy, or did they have some beef? Was there a huge backstory to this? And he's like, I want to get you, you son of a, yeah. So I don't know, but either way, I'm glad that it's worked out okay, I guess, for the guy that got shot. So, let's get to the next one. And the next story of three that we're going to cover on the news tonight also comes from unexplained-mysteries.com. And this one is of ghosts and hauntings. And it's, I only read the headline, so I haven't read this. I don't read any of these pre-show. I just kind of look at them and then I look, how long is this? Is it too long? Because some of these articles on unexplainedmysteries.com are extremely long, and they're too long. They'd be half a show in themselves. So, this one is from the Ghosts and Hauntings collection of stories from August 25th, 2023. Paranormal investigators guard remains of haunted Crooked Pub. Huh. They're guarding the remains? Was it? Wow, look at that. Look at that building, though. That is crazy. I mean, it really is lopsided. Is it just screwed up, or was it built that way? Anyway, let's find out. I don't know. I'm just looking at the picture going, man, this is like a Disney house or something. The famous Crooked House pub in South Staffordshire, England, was recently destroyed under mysterious circumstances. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Dating back as far as the 18th century, the building, which was converted into a pub in the 1830s, was famous for its rather unique structural peculiarities. Sorry, that's a hard one for me to say. Most notably, the fact that one side was 4 feet lower down than the other due to mining subsidence, thus earning its Crooked House moniker. Unsurprisingly for such an old building, the pub was said to be haunted, with visitors reporting sightings of Polly, a ghostly barmaid who is thought to have once worked there. Events surrounding the building ended up marking headline news, however, when it went up for sale back in March before being burgled a few months later. The sale of the pub was completed on July 25th, but less than 2 weeks later, the entire building was gutted in a devastating fire which destroyed much of the interior and the roof. For 2 days later, while investigations were still being carried out, the building was inexplicably demolished with heavy machinery, leaving nothing but a pile of rubble. Unsurprisingly, many have raised concerns about the who, what, and why of these events. Yeah, that sounds really suspicious. Like somebody wanted that property for something else other than a crooked pub. Man, yeah. And it says, now a team of paranormal investigators has taken to guarding the rubble to prevent further sabotage and to ensure that nobody makes off with the debris. You can't blame people for being suspicious after what has happened, said Dan Parks. We did some paranormal investigating and we did capture some stuff, but my main purpose here right now is to make sure that there is no further destruction, because if we're trying to get this rebuilt, we don't want these bricks here being turned to dust. Yeah. I mean, it's a tragedy. The thing just burned down. Wow. That's crazy. But then, yeah, whoever owned it must have went, yeah, well, yeah, oh, that was an accidental fire. So weird how that happened, but I got plans for a hotel there. So let's get to knocking it down. But yeah, if they can rebuild it, I mean, it will never be the same place, but still, that's tragic. I mean, that's one of a kind thing, you know. I mean, that's a heritage site for sure, especially since the 1800 or the 18th century. So it was from the year 17 something. Man, that's a waste. Such a tragic thing. But anyway, let's get on with it here as we go to the next story. and our news festival of fun. I was going to say our fun fest, but I wanted to say news first. This one is also from unexplained-mysteries.com. It has to do with I guess there was more of a kind of a race to get to the South Pole of the moon. I heard that somebody's spacecraft crashed on impact. I don't know if it was a Chinese one or whatever, but it looks like that wasn't the case for everybody involved, because according to unexplained-mysteries.com, India's, oh, look at that name, Chandrayaan-3. I guess Chandrayaan? Okay. 3 spacecraft has successfully landed on the moon. There you go. India is now the first country ever to land a spacecraft near the moon's south pole. There was much to celebrate at the Indian Space Research Organization. That'd be ISRO, I guess. My love of acronyms, you know. Yesterday, when the signal came back to say that Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft's Vikram lander had successfully touched down near the lunar south pole. A complex maneuver that has now opened up a whole new era, I think is what they meant, of the moon for exploration. Suffice to say, the news brought about celebrations across the country. This is a victory cry of a new India, said Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We are witnessing history. The Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft is carrying a small wheeled rover that, if all goes to plan, will soon disembark from the lander and trundle around the lunar surface for up to 2 weeks. Its goal will be to take photographs and to look for evidence of water ice. This particular region of the moon is thought to be home to large amounts of ice, which could, in the future, provide a potential human base with drinking water, oxygen, and fuel. It'll be very interesting indeed to see what, if anything, the rover finds there. So India did it. I don't remember who didn't, but somebody just tried. I thought it was China, that they were trying to land one on the south pole of the moon as well. And there's kind of went nipples up is what I understand. Just kind of crashed is how I think that worked. But sorry, I don't know if nipples up is the right thing to say, but it's what came out of my mouth. And when I'm doing this alone, I have less of a filter for that matter. So anyway, congratulations to the Indian Space Agency. Well done. Now find some water and we'll start with our moon bases. And, you know, you never know. I might just move up there. I don't know if they have winter up there, do they? It's a joke. All right. So anyway, let's continue on. This has been a presentation of the Paranormal Portal News. I hope you learned something. I hope you're leaving here with a little more knowledge than what you came with. And I hope you enjoyed it all the same. So let's get back to the rest of our journey tonight. There you have it, folks. That was a presentation of the news, and I hope you got all newsed. Did you get newsed? I did my best to news you up. We're rushing to get back there. Was it the Russians? Oh, okay. It was the Russian one that crashed. Okay, I thought it was Chinese. The Russian one crashed, and Rachel says they were rushing to get there. All right, well played, Rachel. I appreciate that. They shouldn't have been rushing quite so fast. All right. I don't know. Might as well milk it for all it's worth, right? See if I can get an extra laugh out of it. It's low-hanging fruit. It's my favorite kind. So, there you go. That was the news. And now we're going to get to another segment of our show, which is a fun one. It's one I've loved, and I've loved all of your guys' involvement, and special thanks to Chucky Danger. And we'll bow our heads to him in reverence, because he's kept the question of the weeks going for weeks now. And I really, really appreciate your help, Chucky. Thank you so much for taking this load out of my hands so I don't have to continually try to think up new questions, which in and of itself is a challenge. But making sure it's getting posted timely and everybody can respond is wonderful. So thank you, Chucky, for making us look good. I appreciate it a bunch. But before we get there, I guess I should go here. And there's the question of the week. But before we get to that, we got to do this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Discord question of the week. And if you're wondering, hey, how can I get involved in that Discord? Well, look at the description, the show description right below. If you're watching on YouTube, there is a link to join the Discord server from there. And I hope you guys will do it. Hope you guys take advantage of that. Let me just look at general just to see if anybody's joined since the last time. Nope. But look at that. It's still cutting off names. I really don't like that. I look at this. I got M. I think this is Barbara. More of this, more of that. Who's C? Who's this? It doesn't give me a name. It's so frustrating. So, Chucky, if you can type in the chat who these initials are, then comes after Eric comes someone F, and then M, which I think is Maggie, and then I think A. That's Android though. I know that one. Okay. So I know that I remember the image, but if you can help me with, is that Barbara Mora, and who is C here? So let me know if you could in the chat, because I'm getting these chopped. I still haven't managed to work that into my busy schedule. Find out what the hell this is. Why is it cutting the names off like that? Frustrating to say the least. Oh, hey James, good to see you, buddy. Okay, Barbara is the first one up. Okay, got it. So. Once again, this is our Discord. If you join, this is what it looks like. And we are down here in the questions of the week. If you're new to Discord, right above that, you see a Discord tutorial thread. Just click on that. You can't see because my head's in the way, huh? Let's do this. If you look here, this is questions of the week. Right above that is Discord tutorial. If you click on that, in the panel here, it'll give you some tutorial videos showing you how to use Discord, because it can be a little awkward for some people. And then over here on the right is all of our members. So we've got 195 and 18. So we've got 213 members so far. So great job, everybody. And we'd love to have more of you come. If you're new to the show and you want to check it out. Oh, Kobe Phobie. Okay. Kobe Phobie's after that. I'm going to have to look back at the chat for sure. But let's get started while these names are fresh up on the screen here, so I don't lose them and have to scroll around to find them. Chucky Danger brings the question of the week for Friday's show. Many people are naturally talented with psychic abilities or talents. If you could choose, what psychic power would you want to have? That's a great question. Good thoughts. Again, more of this, more of that. Barbara comes up first. She says, to keep most things or people out of harm's way. Not all, because some nutty people can only learn by getting hurt or by example. Yeah, we need those examples, Barbara. If we can learn from other people's pain, it might make our own journey a little more cumbersome. But yeah, so this is Kobe Phobie. Welcome, Kobe. That's a new name to me, but thrilled that you're here and thank you for participating. He says, to read my wife's mind when it comes to what she wants to do. To answer the question properly, the ability to ease pain. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like the first one too, honestly, though, because it's like, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? It's like, oh, no. Or what do you want to eat? I don't care. It's like, yes, you do. You care. I know you care. So to know what they want to eat or what they want to do, yeah, that'd be awesome. Again, you see that movie, What Women Want with Mel Gibson? That was a classic. I love that movie. But it's like, there's a whole realm of difference between what goes on in our male brains versus the complexity and intricacies of the female mind. It's just, man, we're basically bricks, guys, but it's okay. We know that. We're okay with it. All right, and comes up next is Marie. To be able to communicate with animals, I've always been able to walk up to any dog and have instant rapport with them. It's drove my husband to the edge a few times. Once a huge German Shepherd walked in our yard before he woke up. I, of course, brought him inside and gave him water and called a number on his tag and left a message. I walked him in the room where he was sleeping and walked Sergeant up to the bed and said, "Can I keep him?" When Sargent's dad called back and asked if everyone is okay, apparently Sargent had a history of aggressive behavior, not to mention the countless dogs I have walked up to over my lifetime and could just love on. Our daughter's the same way, except she'd bring home everything from a ferret to a horse. She has her own farm now. No wonder we still call her Ellie Mae to this day. Well, that's cool. That's a good gift to have. And, you know, I think animals are pretty good judges of character for the most part, unless it's been just trained to attack and kill. But for the most part, animals are give you a pretty clear indication, like, is that person a dick or are they nice? Well, check out how the animals act around them. Because not consistently, though. Some people are just animal magnets, but, you know, usually it can be a good barometer. All right. Eric the Purple Hobbit 007 comes up next, says, "Be like the shadow, cloud men's minds. Who knows? The Purple Hobbit knows." There you go. Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be something? I think people's minds are already clouded, though, so somebody might have beat you to it. Storm00 says, or double ot. Maybe it's double ot. Okay. "Though I feel I can understand what most animals want or why they're acting a certain way, I'd really like to be able to communicate telepathically with them to fully bond and help them all." Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. I think that it's surprising. There's, I don't know, I can't even remember. I remember there's like a documentary out there where this woman was brought in. It was a big cat rescue place, and they brought in this panther that wouldn't come out of his cage. And this woman is apparently pretty amazing and just travels around actually like telepathically communicating with animals. And they showed her come into this place, and granted, it was on film, so it might have been staged a bit, but if what they were showing indeed was legitimate, she just kind of sat next to the cage, and she said that she basically talked to this animal, and turns out he was from a pretty crappy old zoo place where he just didn't feel comfortable, and he was also concerned about the cubs, the other panther kittens that were there, and was afraid for them. And she had to ask the person what happened to the little cub, or the cubs, the little cat cubs, or whatever, kittens. I don't know what you call a big cat and a small one, but the people were like, well, we'll check into it. And they contacted where they got the panther from. They were like, how could you know that? There was this, it was the one bond that this big panther had was with this little cub. And apparently he had been rehomed and was in a wonderful place. And so she went back and communicated that with the panther, who then suddenly would come out of his cage, came out of his enclosure, and would wander around and stuff. And it was amazing. But apparently she's been doing this for like baboons that are pestering people. She'll go communicate with them. It's just fascinating. I can't remember her name, but I did reach out to her years ago to try to get her on the show because I was absolutely fascinated with that stories and with what she does. And, you know, I mean, to be honest, of course I was jealous. Imagine having that ability to communicate with animals. That would be incredible. And unfortunately she was, I could never get a hold of her. She was traveling all over doing seminars and stuff. So whatever the case was, it was very fantastic. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, put it in the chat. It was absolutely fascinating. Spooks and Specters. Oh, Buzzacino's here. Good to see you, brother. I was like, who's saying Paranormal Portal? Now I know. All right. Let's go to Eric the Purple Hobbit again. Also, telekinesis would be epic or pyrokinesis. To have any of the kinesis is bless me. Yeah, I don't know about pyrokinesis. I think that one could just go south in a hurry, you know, depending on how it's activated or whatever. But being able to mentally start fires, I think, would be just kind of scary. I mean, unless you could really, really control it and not like have a bad dream and burn your house down, that kind of thing. But I don't know. Who was this one? F? Who was this one? I gotta scroll up a little bit. Where is it? I gotta find it now. All right, Kobe Phobie, and then who was next? James. You said Evening James. Who was next? Who is F? I don't know who that one is. Did somebody answer? Chucky, did you answer? Was it Carol? I don't know. I'm looking for the F name right now. Oh, geez, my chat kind of disappeared and reappeared. Okay, I don't know. I'm sorry. This looks familiar, but I don't know whose it is. I'll look in the chat. Maybe that somebody will let me know, but it's after Eric the Purple Hobbit. Second one, if you can let me know who this F name is. And this person says, I would choose to have the ability to know exactly what to say to any given person in any situation at the right moment. Something that would instantly help them overcome their fear, sadness, or insecurities, or put them on a path of seeing the best in themselves and a better person to those around them. I believe words really can be powerful and uplifting. Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay, so that was Fathom 13. Thank you, Chucky. No, it doesn't. If I hover over it, it doesn't do anything. It says it's a link, but it doesn't even give me a link to look at. So, unfortunately, and if I right-click it and go to profile, I still get this. It's like, what the hell? That doesn't help me. So, anyway, thank you for letting me know. At any rate, so that was, where was it now? Fathom 13. Okay. All right, Fathom 13. Then we come up to Maggie. She said, I would choose to be a healer. Yeah, that's awesome, Maggie. I think the world needs more healers. Who is Kay? Why is it doing this? It just frustrates the hell out of me. Let me know who Kay is. Your Discord is in Discord. Yeah. Isn't that the truth? So let me know who Kay is next. I just don't know if that's Lewis Comet Man or who. I don't know. It's K-Love? Okay, sorry. It didn't look like it. I thought K-Love was a yellow name as well. But anyway, it says, I would choose to be a medium or a shining that, like the kid in The Sixth Sense or from The Shining, spirits are attracted to me by my frequency. Like animal spirits and children's spirits often pass by and sometimes get physical interaction with unseen forces. But if I see a full-bodied apparition in my room, they accidentally stop while passing through. There you go. There you go. I think that's Comet Man. Yeah, Comet Man. Okay. Next up is Grumpy Owl. I'd choose telekinesis and teleportation. Amen. That would be epic. Being telekinesis would be helpful right now as I'm packing a house and moving. And I could use teleportation in that as well. Yeah, that'd be epic. You'd make a hell of a one-person moving company. I'd like to help people out too. Maybe I could use it in my job somehow, which is in harm reduction. I'd try to squash the drug addiction and crime in my city. The whole world would be great. I'd really have to think how to go about that without harming anyone, though. I think you need a mask first. And I don't mean a COVID mask. I mean a superhero mask, because if you could teleport and be telekinetic, you're basically a superhero then, I think. All right, Arc Blaster says telepathy to save time in interactions. Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? You just look at somebody and you know all about them. It's like, yeah, I don't need to talk to that person anymore. Just save a bunch of time. Karen Alberting is next. She says, I really don't know. I don't want to know what other people are thinking about or about the future. I guess probably astral projection or something like that. As long as I can come back to my body. It's scary when it's a struggle. I'm personally good with just living day to day. Don't want to live in the past or know the future. I think the future is too bleak, so I'm good with the ostrich mode. Yeah, I know that, current events right now are kind of make you feel like you're not sure if you want to wake up the next day. But I guess now it's more important to be uplifting and spread love than ever, right? All right. So next we come to Android, who is not the last one. Rachel's last. The ability to move things, which I believe is telekinesis. Yeah. Telekinesis or psychokinesis, depends. I've heard both, but I think telekinesis is probably more accurate, especially if it was nearly unlimited, so you could move or stop cars and trucks. Yeah, then you would be a superhero. Basically, the power of the Force, or the power Jean Grey and the Legion both have in X-Men. The amount of things that could be done with that power would be incredible. You could even build your own mansion while laying in a lawn chair, if you had all the materials and all the know-how. Don't forget there's supposedly people with at least some limited form of telekinesis in our reality. Like, for example, one of Brent's favorite people, Yuri Geller, the Spoon Man. I'm just kidding, Brent. But in all seriousness, I've heard others being able to bend or move small objects too. Supposedly, people at the famous Monroe Institute have been able to accomplish this, but I researched it deeply, yet, LOL. Yeah, I know. It's, these things, everything is based on a truth. I think telekinesis is a real thing. I really do. But maybe it's for some future part of our development. I think it's the ability is probably in all of us, but just how do you manifest that? How do you think around that? I think as people, we kind of have a tendency to need to understand something first. And then how do you actually do it? What does it feel like when you're doing it right? What does it feel like when you're doing it wrong? Because if you think about it, as babies, we were just these wiggling messes. But we could see that things were wiggling. And pretty soon you kind of put it together like, hey, that's me doing that. Hey, wait, I want to grab this. And you get this whole awkward big movements, and it takes a long time to develop the precision, like pinching movements or whatever. So perhaps we do have that telekinesis, but we just can't see it happening in order to really go, oh, there it is. I kind of feel it now. I feel what I'm doing. And you kind of could drill into it maybe. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But I think it's possible. I really do. Rachel comes up last and says, I'd like to have psychometry, to be able to touch an object and a building and know its history. Yeah, that'd be really powerful. That would be cool. Just to pick, imagine you could be like, what the hell is it? The forensics person. Let me see the murder weapon. All right. I know who did it. I know where they live. I can find them. So yeah, you could solve crimes at a heartbeat. If you had that psychometry, that'd be pretty cool. But anyway, that's been the Discord question of the week. Once again, thank you to everybody that participated. This is fantastic stuff. And I love that so many of you would like to be able to help other people. I think that's awesome. That just speaks to your guys' character so much. That's, it'd be great to be a superhero and all, but, if you could make somebody's life easier, if you could heal them, if you could, sit down and tell them all the right things to fix their world, that'd be wonderful. That'd be a wonderful gift. So, yeah, whatever the case, very cool responses. Thank you all for taking part. And again, if you want to be a part of our Discord community, get involved, join Discord. It's https://discord.gg/paranormal portal. So if you just do /paranormal portal after the Discord link, you're going to get there. Just looking back here. Oh, there you go. Renee's got something to say there. San Francisco, 1978. When I was 12 years old, I seen extraterrestrial, alien, metallic, octagon-shaped UFO, starcraft, a sparkle shooting star, and my family ghosts at cemetery. Mind-boggling. I am flabbergasted. Yeah, there you go. I think it's all within us. Buzzacino says if there's something strange in your neighborhood, call Paranormal Portal. They'll tell your story good. Well, there you go, Buzzacino. It's good to have you back. Thank you. I've missed your prose. So this has been the Discord question of the week, folks. All right, let's get back at it here. All right, so that was the Discord question of the week. Thank you to everybody that took part. Once again, if you want to be part of the Discord and you don't remember what I just said for the link, I do usually pin it in the chat here as well, but it is down in the description right below me here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click and join. Love to have you over there. And the question of the week, just for those of you that may not know, if you're new to the show, we post a question prior to every live show, unless there's a guest. And so we'd love to have you take part in those and weigh in and let us know what you think. I love getting your thoughts. Did you miss the news? You did miss the news. The news is already over. Sorry, Cruzieth. But thanks for coming in. And there's much more to come. So you might have missed the news, but there's still so much more. There's paranormal goodness in every bite. At least that's what I put on the wrappers. I kind of crack myself up. It's so dumb. It's so weird to sit here laughing at my own jokes. I can't help it though. It's like when I'm not around other people, I do talk to myself and I do crack myself up. And so basically when you're seeing me host alone, it's a lot like I'm sitting here talking to myself, and the way that I just have my own dialogue. I just say these stupid things in my head, usually quietly, and chuckle to myself. But now I just do it in the microphone. So this is a little glimpse into the workings of my strange mind. So we're gonna get to another part of the show. What time is it, by the way? Yeah, we're doing okay. We got through that pretty reasonably quick. So we're going to get to some of the paranormal goodness that we love to cover here on the shows. I got to find the right one. Where did I do with it? I've got way too many links open, folks. And that is nothing but a bucket of fun. Oh, here it is. Okay. So we're going to go on to an article that we've been blowing through for a long, long time. And then I kind of quit going through it because I lost my spot, because I had a surprising update reboot one night when I was sleeping, and it lost my place. So it's one of the long aggregate articles that we like to go through here on the show. But this one is coming from mortarsearches.com. And again, not your usual paranormal type of site, but they did a Reddit aggregate scrape. I call them scrapes. I don't know. It's where they go through Reddit comments and they farm out some comments to do with a topic. And this one is from mortarsearches.com, real-life coincidences that made people question the nature of reality. And these have been really fascinating. Again, do I know that they're real? No, I don't, but they're represented as being true experiences people have. So that's the spirit I'm giving them to you. So maybe they did. Maybe they did happen. Maybe they didn't happen. But you be the judge. So the first one up that we're going to be covering now is uncanny resemblance. And I don't think I shut that off. We're probably going to get it again. Yep. I knew we'd get it again. I didn't shut it off. Yeah, that's how I roll. It was so good I had to do it twice. All right. Uncanny resemblance is the first one we're going to cover. It says, I had a good friend years ago that I hadn't seen in a while. While on a trip, I was eating supper at an out-of-the-way restaurant. I looked across the room, and there he was. I got up and walked over and reached out my hand, and he just... It's like right behind me. Hey, quit crowding me. I need my space, huh? I looked across the room, and there he was. I got up, walked over, and reached out my hand. He just stared at me without any recognition whatsoever. This guy looked exactly like my friend. Even talked like him, but it wasn't him. But it says, but he wasn't him. That might be the proper language. It just sounds weird. I was shocked at how similar they were. I apologize. And I told him the background, and I'm still bowled over at how complete the resemblance was. That was by Windy Nights. Okay, so I have this theory, and you guys will have to let me know if it's half-baked or whatever. Buzzacchino's been published now. What? What does that mean? What am I missing, Buzzacchino? Word funny. The abominable snowman tries not to stick his big foot in Sasquatch, yet he still does. I love it. What do we mean he's published now? Did you get published, Buzzacchino? I don't know what that means. My mom just sent me a message that you were published. Maybe you need a pot of coffee. No, I don't think that's what I need. I start the day with coffee. Never at the end of the day, though. But it's what gets me cranking in the morning. I'm not tired. I'm just bizarre. I don't think coffee can fix that. So, yeah, I don't know what it means that Buzzacchino's been published. So you'll have to let me know, Buzzacchino, what's the news here? If you could. I forgot what I was talking about before that. But anyway, I was going to say, I have a theory. about people looking alike. And I noticed this. See, I'm from the Midwest, in the Minnesota area most of my life, like largely, with the exception of like a year or two, I was always in the Midwest. So when you live and it was a smaller town, but when you live in a smaller community where pretty much everybody knows everybody, you get to know people and you get to know who they are and what they're like. And not suggesting I knew everybody really well, but I knew people at least to have a passing awareness of them. When I first moved out here, this is the first time I ever really noticed it or really stopped to think about it. But I would see people at the store, like when I was grocery shopping or something, and they would remind me very much of the physical traits of people that I knew. And so I'd kind of sit back and just observe those people, and it was surprising that they kind of looked the same, but they actually acted kind of the same too. Very similar mannerisms, very similar ways of presenting themselves. And that was surprising to me. And it really made me kind of think, and I know this is kind of way out there land, but, he says, Paranormal Portal, yes, I finally got my poetry published. I have a book out there. Well, congratulations. That's brilliant. That's wonderful news. You feel free to put it in the chat. I'll let people know from the sound of my voice what the title and stuff is, but yeah, and where to find it. Absolutely. But I found it interesting that not only were the physical characteristics similar, but the behaviorisms of these people were very similar as well. And it made me think, is there something to, and I know it's way out there, but is there something to do with this NPC idea that, if this was some sort of construct, and I don't mean in a spiritual sense, but I mean more in a matrix type of sense. Would there be a fixed number of physical attributes and behavioral attributes that seem to be consistent with them, and would they duplicate? In other words, it was like I was seeing copies of people I already knew, or the people I knew were copies of these people, whatever the case was. But I was kind of taken aback by that. It's like, guy looks just like looks like Brad. That's weird. And they just sit back and watch. And it's like, God, he acts just like Brad too. And it's just an observation. What does it mean? Probably nothing. And it's probably just foolishness. But it just made me think: is there something to that? Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Okay. But yeah, whatever the book of poetry is called, Buzzachino, let us know. And where to find it. You can let the chat know. We're very proud of you, man. That's wonderful. I don't see a name yet, so that's why I'm saying it. So anyway, Attack of the Clones, yeah, almost. I mean, it maybe is just me, but have you guys ever noticed that? Is this just me? Am I just revealing a lot more of the broken inside of my head? That could be. But let's go to the next one. It says move-in day. Look at that face. This person does not like moving. It was move-in day at the dorms during my freshman year at college. Some frat boy knocked on my door and invited my roommate and me to a party, hoping that we would rush. I don't know what that means, rush. I shooed him off, and 5 years later, I was moving to New York with my wife. We were at the airport and struck up a conversation with a couple that went to the same college as we did. As they also happened to live in New York, we developed friendship and became best friends. After several months, we found out that we lived in the same dorm our first 2 years at college, although he was a year ahead of me. It turned out we lived in the same dorm room our respective freshman years, and he was the frat boy on my move-in day. Oh, that's funny. Wow. So you were destined to hang out with this guy. Huh. That doesn't have an attribution, so I don't know who wrote it. The next one is, want to see a card trick? All right. It says, I was at a party and there was a guy trying to impress women doing some magic tricks. Well, they were all actually pretty good, but I was tipsy, so I was jealous and wanted some of the female attention. I told him I had a trick that was pretty great, even though I didn't. Everyone gathered around. I did a pick a card, any card. Well, he showed it to me. It was the 6 of hearts. We put it back in the deck. I did a million moves, cutting the deck, handing it to someone else, and so on. I was just trying to waste time at that point. I had a crowd, so I decided I was just going to draw the top card after all this nonsense that I was doing. It was the 6 of hearts. The guy stood there looking at me dumbfounded. He couldn't figure it out. He was sure that I had a trick to it. I could barely contain myself. The crowd was amazed, and so was I. The guy started questioning me and wanted to know my secret. I told him a good magician never tells his secrets. That's true. But I would give him a hint. I confidently said, Jack of clubs, as I flipped over another card, and it was the Jack of clubs. I couldn't explain how amazing it was. That was by Yo Man Noham. Yo Man Oman. Yo Man Oman? Yo Man Oman? Okay. All right. Yeah, I got that. Thank you. Cool. Yeah, we're really proud of you, Buzzacino. That's phenomenal. All right, next one was he was not disappointed. I went into Home Depot to buy light switches. While I was staring at a bunch of dimmers, an employee asked if I needed any help. Well, he started to help me, and I noticed he had a thick Italian accent. Since both my parents were Italian, we started chatting, and he asked me what part of Italy my parents were from, and I told him Molise, I guess, Molise, and he said he was from there as well and asked what city. When I told him, he was shocked, as he was from there as well, but it didn't end there. He asked me what was my father's name. It turned out his father grew up with my father. Every time he spoke to his dad, his father kept asking him if he had found my father. He tried to explain to his dad that Canada was huge, and he didn't know what part of Canada my dad moved to 45 years ago. I called my dad and let him talk to his long-lost friend's son. He was not disappointed. Wow, that's cool. It's by Flavtron. Cool. That's a fantastic story. It must be meant to be, right? How else do you explain things like that? Closer Than You'd Think is next. I lived with my bandmate for about 3 years, and when I moved out, it took him a while to get a new roommate. He found this girl whose dad owned a high-end hotel. Well, she worked there as a waitress. At the same time, I started talking to this girl that I met online who was a pastry chef. In passing, she mentioned she worked at a hotel. I didn't really think much of it. After she would get out of work, she would tell me about this girl she worked with. They hated each other. She was telling me that she was spoiled and her dad let her get away with anything because he owned the hotel. That's when I found out the girl I was dating hated the girl that was now living in my old bedroom. That's just a Reddit story, so no one to attribute it to. But again, small world, right? I don't know what you make of those things. It just kind of shows that our lives really are intertwined, and they do seem to have a purpose. Like oftentimes we think we're just in this random array of events that just kind of happens, but things like that come out. And again, can I attribute that to a true story? No. It's supposed to be, though. And if it is true, what are the odds? What are the odds? Crazy. All right, coming up next, a perfect match. A while back, I'd met a guy at a party, and he was really intoxicated and wouldn't leave me alone all night. Well, the next morning, a bunch of us walked to the bus stop together, and I remember looking at him and thinking, wow, I really hope I never date that guy. I think it's just a random thing. I hope I really never date that guy. It's a choice, lady. You can make that choice. About 3 years later, I met this other guy at the bar and ended up going home with him, only to realize the next morning it was the guy from the party 3 years before. We eventually got married. Well, then I guess it was just not his night. It just was a bad night for the guy. That was by Strawberry Brie. Cool story. Next up, it was really her. I was working at a Starbucks below an NBC studio. I rang up a young lady who looked familiar. And she was smirking, and I was wondering why. Then I noticed my girl was playing on the ceiling speakers. I thought, oh wow, that's her, from My Girl. I made sure to get a good look at her ear anatomy so I could compare who I saw in person with pictures later and verify it was her, which I did. And it was. Well, I don't know if that's such a simulation thing. I mean, if you're working at a coffee shop below NBC and you run into somebody from NBC, it's like, yeah, the odds are pretty good that that's going to happen. All right, this one's got a picture of a Ouija board. I never wanted to see it again. That's always a bad start. Whenever it starts with a Ouija board, it's always like, oh, this probably isn't going to go good. I got a Ouija board. It was fun to mess around with at parties, but after several weird nights, I decided to get rid of it. I gave it to a friend that I knew that I knew I was never going to talk to again because she was going to school in Alabama. A month later, at a random party that I would normally skip, I ran into her, and she happened to bring the Ouija board with her. Somehow that night it found its way into the trunk of my car, and I ended up taking it home. 3 months later, I gave it to someone else, this time to someone on the West Coast. 6 months later, she was back in town, and the board ended up at my place somehow again. I didn't want anything to do with it. Finally, I met some exchange students from Austria. I convinced them to take it with them as a funny American souvenir. I was in my senior year of college and graduating, and they went back to Europe and took the board with them. All was well, and I knew I was never going to see it again, or so I thought. The next year, I went to a Halloween party. I dropped in on some friends who were still in school. I started walking in the back door and saw the 2 exchange students from Austria. They were back and at this one particular party. I made everyone who was with me leave. I didn't want to find out if they had the board, as I didn't want to get it back again. I still worry that someday that thing is going to show up on my doorstep. That was by A.L. Alchemedes, I guess. Alchemedes. Wow. Yeah, sometimes those boards just keep showing up. And I realize a lot of times it's embellishment or whatever. But what if? What if the board wants you? It's like Children of the Corn. Malachi, he wants you too. It's like, Jesus. Just kill it with fire, maybe. I don't know. Again, I'm not a big proponent of, it's a Ouija board is evil. But I think that's largely, most people don't know how to use them appropriately or correctly. Even in just closing. Okay, we're done. Drag it over goodbye. And that's it. Really? Are you sure? Because I think that portal stays open unless you close it appropriately. And closing a portal is more involved than that. Now, is it really a portal? Well, no, but in a manner of speaking, yes. Depends on how you define it. But at any rate, just rubbing a piece of plastic over goodbye does not probably effectively close those. I don't believe a lot in that. I think that people are not given the right tools to use it appropriately. I think that also 90% of the time you use a Ouija board, it's going to be nothing going on, or it's just going to be fun or just weirdness, but not necessarily true communication. But when it does come through, you got to know how to handle it, and you got to know how to shut it down. So that's the problem with Ouija boards. I did a TikTok video on Ouija boards. You can check it out on my TikTok. Just look for @Paranormal Portal on TikTok. You'll find it. I'm actually working on another one. I don't know. I'm kind of having fun on the TikTok thing. It's just quick little videos, but they're kind of fun to put together. Just some informational ones and some silly ones. I got a few of my cats on there, a little bit of the Spokane wildfires, the big wall of smoke I saw as we were driving. And but for the most part, there's hopefully some good information there. Just my thoughts for whatever it's worth. But again, it's at Paranormal Portal on TikTok. String of coincidences is next. A long time ago, I had a mobile phone before they were common. I was meeting up with an online friend for the first time to have coffee. We were walking around looking for a coffee shop when we heard sirens close by. They were followed by cruisers and ambulances, and we simultaneously said, "I've never seen a dead person." We laughed and kept on walking, not really thinking about the comments. Just as we were crossing the street, we both looked ahead. In the crowd ahead of us, there was an old woman who was standing perfectly still in the middle of the moving crowd. Well, our fun day was about to turn into a nightmare. A second later, she fell like a tree flat down on the street. Oh no. My friend and I instantly ran up to the woman thinking, oh my God, did she just die? There were two other women approaching who were obviously concerned as well. They asked the surrounding crowd and us if anyone had a mobile phone. No one replied, and I was the only one, so I picked it up and started dialing for an ambulance. As I was dialing the number, I looked up, and to my surprise, I saw a crowd parting in front of me. A guy on a bike came in full speed through the people and yelled, "Let me through! I'm trained for diabetic emergencies, and this woman needs my help." He got off his bike and started to check the woman for life signs, put her in the sideways position, confirmed. I had called the ambulance and then took off on his bike saying, "Stay with her until the ambulance arrives." A few minutes later, the woman came to, and we tried to make conversation with her. She didn't speak. She gestured in silent mouth movements. I was worried she might be seriously injured. Then one of the two women who had stopped to help started gesturing to the injured lady and said, "She's deaf. I know sign language." I was relieved. And after a few minutes, it was clear that the old woman was shaken, but okay. She just wanted to go home. I called off the ambulance, shook her hand, and said goodbye to the other woman. Needless to say, I've never ever experienced a string of coincidences like that before from multiple people involved. That was by Swede AIDS. Huh. That's pretty wild. I mean, I guess if you're going to have something bad happen, it's pretty fortuitous. Android says, Paranormal Portal, if I had a $100 bill, every time I saw a video of people let their hand off the Ouija board and just to walk away, I'd be very wealthy. Oh, God, I know. Yeah, that's just, there's so much people don't understand about those things. Just for example, there are esoteric and occult practices of communicating with the spirit world. None of them are being practiced by 8-year-olds or 12-year-olds, whatever the age requirement is that they outline for a Ouija board. The other part of it is that it's not something you just jump into. It's something that these people train in their respective practices for a long time before they do it. There's just, it's not just, hey, let's crack open the box and start dragging this piece of plastic around and talk to Grandpa. It's just not the way it works. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know what you're talking to, and you don't know what it could be and what are the ramifications. You could be just opening a whole horrible chapter in your life just trying to have fun. So, and the fact that they get used at slumber parties just about makes me just shudder. I just think that's so tragic. I think Ouija boards, I think anytime you're dealing with communicating with spirits, it's not something that should ever be taken lightly. I think we don't know, A, what they are for sure. We believe that they're something or another, but we don't know, B, why they're here, whether they choose to be or whether they have no choice or whether they're not able to go further because they're not good. And we don't know if they have plans or designs to cause trouble for the living people involved. And you're just blindly saying, is anyone here? Come talk through me. It's like you are physically touching this thing and creating a blind channel of yourself. You are a blind channel. Like you hear the term channeling spirits, but that's a very deliberate act, very deliberately aimed by sensitives or people that have practiced and trained to do this. But you're taking a bunch of people that have no concept of what they're doing and saying, here, anybody here that'd like to talk to us, but you're touching this. You become a conduit for it. And if there is such things as demons and other dark things, and I believe there is, the one thing that they want is to get past your defenses and potentially possess you. Well, if you're touching a Ouija board and saying, come through and talk to us, you are allowing something in. You are calling something. It's almost an invocation. Invocation. You hear the term invocation and evocation. Evocation is to call upon something to, affect the area around you. Like, Archangel Michael, defend us in battle. That's an evoking, calling the awareness of some other being to be protective or to act around you. Invoking is to pull it through you or into you. Invoking is, I like, what would be a great example? I guess some prayers, some Christian prayers, talking about, I am, what would be a great example of an invocation? I guess whatever. Basically, you're summoning it through you or into you. I don't have a good analogy for you right now. I'm sorry. But, the Ouija board is very close to invoking. In other words, you are drawing it into you or through you to communicate to this board. And that's where I think the real scary part of it is, because you've now given something total clearance to come through you and mingle with your energies or, whatever. So that's my fear of those things. Not fear, but my concern over those things. And the fact that most people don't know what they're doing. And again, dragging plastic over goodbye may not mean goodbye to the things you're talking to. Might just mean talk to you soon. So anyway, all right. Like we're kids again. I had a very close friend in middle school. We hung out a lot, made a lot of jokes, teased girls, and we played video games. However, our favorite activity was watching episodes of The Simpsons while his mom made us some seriously awesome snacks. One day near the beginning of the winter-spring semester, I got a heartbreaking news. His parents decided that they were going to upend their lives and leave to care for their ailing grandparents, who were still in Venezuela. We didn't have much time to hang out, but one of the last things we did together was watch The Simpsons episode where Bart was accused of fraud in Australia. Well, we laughed and had a good time. Chazwazers, a fake Australian I don't even know how to say this word, neologism or logism, that gets coined in the episode became a favorite pseudo word of ours. We said it incessantly for the last few days together, and it became imprinted on me enough that it became a permanent part of my vocabulary. My friend and I wrote each other occasionally, but eventually we grew apart. About 2 years after he moved, we stopped writing to each other. We both discovered that girls were actually pretty awesome and started dating them, so keeping in touch fell by the wayside. Well, 10 years later, I had graduated college and was working for a startup. I drove with my girlfriend and 2 college buddies to meet my family upstate for a much-needed summer vacation. Well, as we're driving on the highway, I saw a car pulled over to the side of the road with steam and water spraying out of the hood. Well, since we're making good time, I figured it wouldn't detract much from our route if we stopped to help this guy for just a second. I pulled over behind the car and walked up to the driver, who was obviously exasperated and dialing a tow truck. As he surveys the damage, I heard him mutter, "Chazwazers." I stopped in my tracks. It was my old friend. We spent hours at the nearest rest stop exchanging stories. We never made it upstate that day, but I didn't care. It was like we were kids again, and easily the greatest afternoon of my life. That was by a Redditor, JXF. That's really cool. I learned the difference between invocation and evocation right here on Paranormal Portal. Oh, yeah. Well, you're welcome. I hope it serves you well. The next one up is let me look at the time here. See how we're doing. Okay, we'll do this one, and then we'll probably move to some of those darn cryptids in the cryptid corner. The thief and his victim is next, and this one is, I work for a major credit card company. People would have to wait 15 to 30 minutes to get through to a rep, and there are about 4,000 of us on shift at the time at various locations. A customer called to report that they had been mugged and their card was gone. Well, I shut their card off and proceeded to take a report, which was 5 to 10 minute process. The next call I got was from a dude who gave me the exact same account number and wanted to know why the merchant wouldn't accept it. The thief did not wait for me to get our security department on the line. He was trying to call in on the card that he just stole that wouldn't work. Man, that's crazy. All right, there you go. A little bit of some weirdness, and then we'll be on the next one next time. I guess we're almost done with the article, but for the sake of the show, for the sake of the journey, we got to move on. We got to hit the cryptids. Gotta hit the cryptids. All right, let me just look at this quick. The phone lines are open, too, if any of you had something that you just wanted to say or wanted to share, by all means. The phone lines are always, what the hell did I just do? What did I just do? I did the wrong thing. That's what I did. There we go. I got it fixed. We're going to start off the Cryptid Corner by visiting the amazingly wonderful SasquatchChronicles.com. Check out the blog. I got one story just sitting here waiting. I didn't get a chance to get to it last time. So we're going to do it now. Yeah, it's a big one. That's why I skipped it last time. Didn't have enough time. But this is coming from Sasquatch Chronicles blog. Special thanks to Wes. And I encourage you guys to check out the blog. Check out the website as well. Most of you are aware of the podcast, Sasquatch Chronicles. But check out his blog. Wes does a lot of work over there, and it's really great information. So the article that we're going to cover here, before we move on to phantoms and monsters. Whoa. Did it again. Derp. All right. I derped out on that one, too. All right. August 22nd. It was a huge man. Again, SasquatchChronicles.com. A listener writes, I've always been a believer and a big fan of your show. My boyfriend Dave has never been a believer and would always tease me about watching Bigfoot shows and listening to your podcast. He's been in the forest his whole life, from working falling timber to living in the forest areas to just venture into the outdoors all by himself. Well, last week, what does that say? If there's something strange? Oh. Last week, I had Wednesday off and I told him, let's go to your spot. We'll take the 2 dogs and see how this goes. While there, we met this guy who was about 10 years older than us, and I said, "Oh, look, he has a Sasquatch, an alien on his water bottle." Dave was like, "Oh yeah, she believes in Sasquatch," and the guy was like, "Me too. I've heard them. I know they're out here, and I finally got my first picture of a footprint the other year." Then Dave pipes up, "Well, if I'm being completely honest, there's this little tiny waterfall down the river where I've seen these giant footprints all over the bank." And I was like, "What? You never told me this." He said, "Well, I want you to come camping with me." He said he would take me to see them in the kayaks, and I said, okay. We needed to go up another lake the next day, but he had another day off, so he told me he was going back for another night. And that's when it happened. So he was camping at Wickiup in Central Oregon. Closest campground is Sheep Ridge Campground. And he'd gone back to the same spot, and his buddy and his girlfriend were there, along with our new friend that had the water bottle with the Sasquatch and alien. Dave hung out with them and decided he was going to kayak over to the little waterfall and camp solo. We said goodnight on the phone, and I went to bed. Wake up at 4 a.m. the next morning, and I was surprised to see him home. I asked him why he was home, and he said he got rained out. He was sleeping in the back of the truck in the open, and a storm came through and just dumped on him. I thought, okay. He climbed into bed and then told me what had happened. This is what he said. He was hanging out with everyone at the camp they had, and it was starting to get late, so he loaded his kayak with the tent sleeping bag and the gear he needed. He had to paddle against the current, which was pretty strong as the river was very low. He thought to himself he was getting a later start than he expected, but it was starting to get dark. As he recounted the story to me, he said, "I don't know if the shadows were playing a trick on me, but as I was paddling to my spot, I saw someone standing on the bank, and I was squinting my eyes like, is there really a guy standing there?" As he got closer, something came over him. He said it was a huge man, if it was a man. And then it turned its top half and looked at him. When that happened, he said he was in total fear. He froze. When he did that, the current took him back about 60 feet away, and he hit the bank, and when he hit the bank, he snapped out of it. I asked if he had his gun, and he said it was right behind him on the side of his bag, but even if it was sitting on his lap, he couldn't have grabbed it. He was frozen. I immediately asked, "Do you think it was a Bigfoot?" He said he couldn't think of what else it could have been. He said if it was standing beside it on that bank, it would have been 2 or 3 feet taller than him, and he's 6'2". And he said the width was huge. I tried asking him questions to get all the details he could remember while it was fresh in his mind. He said the moon was behind it, so he couldn't see the details, but it really looked like the Bigfoot stickers that everyone has. He thinks it sent out some sort of infrasound that made him freeze. Well, I was excited that he had seen one, but he said he was getting the chills just talking about it and wanted to get some sleep. He made his way back to the truck after the encounter, but slept lightly, thinking this thing could just take him if it wanted to. We went to sleep, and the next day I asked him how he was feeling, and he said every time he closed his eyes and started to drift off, the image would come back to him, and so would the fear. It took him a good 3 days to get some rest without the image coming to him. Since then, he's gone through the I just want to forget it happened to talking about it again and then getting the chills and not wanting to think about it. It really blew his mind, and he wonders what else is real. He did tell his grandpa and mom the other day, and his mom was like, "Yeah, I believe it. Your grandpa has some stories." He had a place in Fishhawk Lake in Oregon and said there was a canyon there that no one would go hunting because they knew they were there. If people went there, they would go missing or come back mangled or killed. Sounds like Port Chatham in Alaska. Again, that's apparently the village that was up there was very well established as a fish cannery and such, and essentially everybody left. They left because people started turning up all mangled. They'd wash down in the river to the village that was on the shore, and they would be nearly unrecognizable. Some people never came back at all, but the old mangled people thing is that's the dark side of it all. So, yep, there you go. I again, I know that I like to think of them as probably being these maybe smart, intelligent, wise beings. I'd like to think that they're kind of the caretakers of the forest thing, but then you hear stories like that. Some of them are as old as the First Nations, of them doing horrible things to people. And so you got to remember that, that's also a very strong possibility. So I think if I saw one, it would be a terrifying thing, just because you don't know which version you're getting. You're going to get the gentle forest giant, or you're getting the I want to eat your face thing. I don't know. That's the scary part. But great story. Again, special thanks to Wes letting us use it here on the show. I don't know. What do you guys think? Just checking the chat, see if I missed anything. Nobody's calling, so we're good. Okay. All right. So we got 1, 2. I don't know. Wait, this isn't one, is it? No, that's something else. That is something else. That's the one. Oh, yeah. Let me do this. This Jack Carey is a guy that's been on the show many times. And Lon was a friend of J.C. Johnson. Jack Carey was an understudy of his, but Lon has this whole listing on Phantoms and Monsters of the many stories that J.C. Johnson forwarded to Lon through the years. And I think this one sounds good. Oh, okay. Let's read both of these because these sound kind of good. And J.C. Johnson, for those of you who don't know, was really a pioneering voice in cryptid research, not just Bigfoot, but cryptids. I think he dealt with everything from lizard people to, dogmen to Bigfoot to everything in between, little people. He just kind of went everywhere to just to look into all of it. And that's not someone I had ever met or, whatever. But as far as I know, just by his reputation, he was really an incredible guy and really dedicated his life to looking for answers about this stuff. So I think we're going to start with a couple of the reports that Lon had left open on that list about some of the things that J.C. Johnson had uncovered. The first one is from March 1st, 2012. Cryptid lizard in the Four Corners. Cryptid lizards. I mean, it's just the craziness of this is just think how many things are out there. How many things are out there that we don't know about? And again, it's just we have this arrogance about us like, oh, we got the world figured out. It's all sorted. Never mind. All that stuff is just fluff. We know the world. It's all labeled and mapped. The end. But there's so much here we don't know. There's so many places that I'm sure even on the face of the earth, on the land, that human feet have never walked on, So it's pretty powerful stuff. But we're going to go to phantomsandmonsters.com and check out some of these stories. And again, check out phantomsandmonsters.com, folks. This is a great site. Our wonderful friend Lon Strickler, who's been a pillar in the paranormal Fortean communities forever. And Phantoms and Monsters has really been a huge mainstay for a lot of us enthusiasts, just to look for encounter stories and research and all of that. Little gnat, what the hell are you? Quit landing on me. But it's a great site. You can also find links to Lon's published works. He's published several books, as well as his Phantoms and Monsters podcast. So check it out. And since you're on YouTube, most of you, head over to Phantoms and Monsters YouTube channel and subscribe. And you can be a part of all of his shows when he goes live. He also does one on Friday night, too. I don't think it's at the same time as my show, but I think it might be a little bit earlier. So be a great place to start and then end up here, but it's up to you. All right, so we're going to hit this article. Again, lizard people, cryptid lizards. Cryptid investigator J.C. Johnson of the Crypto Four Corners just released a video. Is this a video? Lizard legends came to life that describes sightings of a fan-colored or hooded lizard that stands and runs on two legs. In fact, a witness observed the creature capture a flying bird at the height of 5 feet then proceeded to eat its prey. The witness states that this lizard looked like a water dragon. JC estimates the weights in the range of 20 pounds or so. This particular large lizard was reported in the Hogback, New Mexico, in the far northeast edge of the Navajo Nation. The witness also states that a friend's uncle witnessed one of these cryptid lizards kill and devour a pit bull dog. Oh, yeah, that's no joke. That sounds like a dinosaur. In another part of the video, the team investigates a den system dug under a low-hanging tree. There was no evidence that a lizard had recently been there. The description of size could correlate to a western chuckwalla, but other than that, the mystery lizard description is unlike any species in the area that I'm familiar with. Chuckwallas are large lizards found primarily in arid regions of the southwestern United States and northern Mexico, and are part of the iguanid family, Iguanidae. Primarily herbivores. Chuckwallas feed on leaves, fruit, and flowers of annuals and perennial plants. Insects represent a supplemental prey. I guess that's a chuckwalla there. So they do look like they get kind of sizable. I don't know what size this is from the photo, but yeah, that's a Gila. Gila monsters. They remind me of salamanders a lot. The reticulate Gila monster feeds on small birds, mammals, frogs, lizards, insects, and carrion, but is heavy and slow in terms of sprinting ability. These lizards can grow up to 2 feet in length. Neither the Chuckwalla or Gila monster are known to or seem capable of walking or running on 2 legs. During JC's recent guest appearance on BTE, I don't know what that is, but podcast, JC Johnson Beyond the Edge Radio. Oh, okay. He described several odd sightings in the Four Corners region, including unknown reptile species. In the past, JC has related to me other sightings of small T-Rex and mini dinosaur-looking cryptids throughout the region. Yeah, I've heard of some of the T-Rex reports out of Texas. That's kind of weird. I don't know. They're like a smaller, like dog-sized, but they look like little T-Rexes. If you have a sighting report, whatever, there's some maps of the Four Corners regions. There's Hogback. Four Corners, if you're not familiar with it, I think is Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and I don't know, Oklahoma. Something where in the map, it's where those 4 states come together to form Four Corners. So that's apparently a real hotbed for some paranormal or Fortean type of activity. Very interesting. So that's the cryptid lizards. Let's get to another one from the same. It's bloodless carnage. This is livestock attacks continue in the Four Corners. And it's a bloodless carnage. So is that the chupacabra kind of thing? Livestock attacks continue in the Four Corners. Let's see what we got here. This is graphic material, so I apologize. Yeah, there's Utah is the other one. Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. That's the Four Corners. Okay, gotcha. My apologies. I was misrepresenting it. JC Johnson of the Crypto Four Corners has posted a new video that references a recent raid and killing of 7 sheep, including a large ram on a farm in the Navajo lands of New Mexico. The culprit is known through evidence, is unknown, though evidence suggests a bipedal or upright creature. The most astonishing aspect of this particular raid is that there was very little blood found at the scene. Many of the sheep had puncture wounds, but scant blood traces were left after the carnage. It didn't seem like there was any feeding on the carcasses, though the 300 to 400 pound ram was dragged a fair distance. There have been earlier reports of hominid attacks on livestock. Bigfoot raids farm, as well as other raids, maulings, by unknown entities. Sheep mutilation mystery, Dine Navajo Reservation, near Hogback, New Mexico. There have been reports of canine-like hominids in the area, not unlike those described as shapeshifters or skinwalkers. In fact, there has been trace evidence collected at earlier events, which is currently being tested for DNA. Could this be an attack of the lycanthrope or possibly a skinwalker or macabre? The activity suggests that whatever it is, roaming and hunting the area, it will continue to do so, at least in the near future. Stay tuned for more updates. And there are video here. It looks like a YouTube video, so I'll put a link. You guys can check it out if you want to actually check out those video and some more of the picture evidence in that. Yeah, I'm not extraordinarily familiar with J.C. Johnson's work, other than by reputation, but I can tell that he's certainly someone that I definitely want to learn more about and learn more about his work throughout his life. Because what a fascinating guy. So there's that one. All right, we're going to move along to the next one. Not that one. Here we go. This one is maybe not cryptid as much as it is creeptid. It's kind of creepy. This is a black-eyed woman this time, not a black-eyed kid, which I found fascinating. I'm going to polish off this water so I don't continue to get raspy. The mostly empty ones don't have that same snap. But then we move to a full one, and we pick it up from there. Much better. All right. So, if you noticed on tonight's thumbnail, for the show, I did include a black-eyed kid, and the reason I did was because of this story. But this is not a kid at all. It's a black-eyed woman. It's like, well, there's apparently black-eyed adults as well, folks. Sometimes people attribute it to demonic activity. Truth be known, if you listen to the podcast, you may have heard when I interviewed my God, why is the name gone? Father Mike. That's it. I just was gone. Sorry. I have a dyslexia for names. For some reason, names I've known my whole life can just be gone out of my head. It's just weird. It's always been that way. I'm kind of a freak of nature. But he talked about exorcisms and reports he had from other priests that had seen people's eyes change in person, seeing like the reptile eyes appear where a normal pupil was. And things like that. And certainly black eyes is, even though it was popularized on the TV show Supernatural, there is still a basis for that in actual, demonic experiences that people have observed the eyes becoming just wells of blackness. There's no sclera, white sclera at all. It's just all black. So let's see what this story is. I'm sorry. I just took a drink and I'm a little gassy. This is a Philadelphia woman and her daughter at a local Target store when they encounter an evil-looking black-eyed woman who was biting her own fingers. What happened next frightened them both. Lon says, I received the following account. And this is from August 18th, so it's still pretty recent. In early February 2017, something really unusual took place. I was in the local Target store in a Philadelphia suburb shopping with my daughter, and as we walked down the aisle on our way to the electronics department, I noticed a young woman ahead of us, about 20 years old or so. Absolutely nothing remarkable at first glance. She was thin, had long dark brown hair, a t-shirt, sweatpants, and sneakers. It appeared that she was biting her nails because her hand was next to her mouth. But as we got closer in passing, there was something weird about her gait. Her strides seemed to be long and exaggerated. She was a little over 5 feet tall in general, so it just looked odd. As we got closer, what appeared as nail biting was actually her biting her fingers to the point where there was blood visible. As my friend passed her, the woman turned and looked at her as she went by. Her eyes were jet black. She then gazed at me, staring me down as to intimidate me, but it was like nothing I had ever experienced. A thought came to my brain. I'm not scared of you. I know what you are. My daughter says I was staring her down like she was staring at me. I walked by, ignored her, and stoically kept going. As we continued, my daughter stopped and bent down to fix her shoelaces. When she did, she glanced back at the black-eyed woman walking away from us, and she told me when this woman then turned to look at us, her head turned in fast motion, completely around. It frightened my daughter so bad that she begged for us to leave the store. I now feel as though this was an evil being. The negative energy was palpable, very intense and frightening. I never really believed in this black-eyed people phenomena, but now I know that they exist. I am confident that they are demonic and take the forms of humans. Yikes. There's no other comments from Lon, but yeah, that's creepy as hell. It was actually chewing on its own fingernails. Or fingers, not fingernails, fingers. Yeesh. I got to give the woman credit, though. She was like, yeah, I know what you are. I don't know. What are you looking at? What are you looking at? She's just having a stare down with this being. And God, I guess there's a lot to be said for holding your ground and being brave and stuff. But I don't think, here's the thing, is that a perfect possession? Is that a situation where somebody is so possessed that there's no... Perfect possession is the term where there's no difference between the possessing spirit and the individual. anymore. It's like a perfect melding or a conglomeration or whatever. Like it totally takes over the person. And is that what this case was? I don't know. It's tragic because I hate to think of people being out there, but even in talking with the author who I talked to about, Mr. Richard Gallagher, Dr. Richard Gallagher, who, what did he call it? The demonic foe or something, was the name of the episode on the podcast. And he was talking about a lot of this stuff. And I forgot where I was going with this completely. It was just gone from my head. But it does make you wonder, is there people that just can't be helped? Oh, I remember what I was going to say. He was talking about there's apparently a movie being made based on his work, or at least one of the cases that he was very involved with, and he's been involved with the production company and getting this movie made, and I'm sure it'll be a big budget film and such. But he named this woman with a pseudonym during the interview, but he said that she was a satanic practitioner and had no desire to quit, but was just trying to get help with the possession part. And it's like, wow, really? I mean, you're already seeing the fruits of your labors. Why wouldn't you stop? I mean, why wouldn't you stop? It's like, you know what? I don't want to be not here anymore. I don't want to be unmade. I think I'm going to hang this up. But she just had no interest in stopping that practice, even though she was very much possessed. And according to Dr. Gallagher, there were 8 people witnessing this exorcism of this woman, and she levitated for apparently 45 minutes during the course of this exorcism. And he thought that it wasn't successful, I think is what he said. But, I mean, if she's not going to give up the practices, then it's hardly, worth pursuing, because she's not willing to walk away from that. But very, very scary stuff. So I think that this is probably maybe not the black-eyed kids that we're familiar with, but maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe there's a demonic connection with the black-eyed kids too, or maybe there's something else. Maybe they're in league with demonic entities. Hell, I don't know. It's really an amalgamation of a lot of things, some of these stories. And certainly, I don't know that the black eyes alone and these children wandering around in these black eyes on these adults necessarily means they're the same thing, but we don't have much to go on, so they all get lumped together as black-eyed fill in the blank. They may not be the same things at all, but I mean, what do we know? So creepy story. That is very, very creepy. And then to turn its head all the way around on the swivel. So basically she was saying the woman was walking away and turned around, but the head jerked around really quick, like all the way around back, to glance one more time back at them. It's like, oh my God. Oh no. I think I'd be done. I'd be all done shopping for the day at Target. Anyway, you be the judge. Very creepy story though. Let's go to the next one. This one's also from Phantoms and Monsters. How are we doing on time? Yeah, we got about time for this one. And that might about wrap it up. It's going to be, we'll get through this one. So this one has to do with Bigfoot. This is angry Sasquatch approaches sleeping hunters near Yakima, Washington. Wow, Yakima. Okay. Angry Sasquatch. That's not the kind of Sasquatch you want to encounter. All right, this one says a pair of friends are sleeping in their pickup the night before their hunt. They're startled by heavy bipedal footfalls and are soon face to face with an angry Sasquatch. I wonder if they can look happy, or if they just look angry just because they just have that scowl. Maybe it wasn't angry. Maybe it was glad to see him, but it just looks angry. My experience took place in April of 1995. I was 25 years old going to college in Yakima, Washington. I've been up there for about a year and a half. I love hunting and fishing. So going from Phoenix to Yakima was a huge rush during the summer. I was completely infatuated with Bigfoot. So every time my neighbor and I would go out to the North Fork, my mother, with whom I was staying while I was in school, would tease me and say, "Are you going out to find your beast?" And I jokingly reply, "Yep, this is the weekend I succeed." If only I knew just how much I would regret making that statement. My friend and I arrived out in the woods at about 6:30 in the early evening. We drove up the old forestry road until we found a large area that was level and large enough where we could park his 1965 Ford two-wheel drive truck.
Cook.
No, it's not. They weren't cooking yet. They just got camp. They just got to where they're going to camp. But we'll get to the cooking, I'm sure. We set up camp for the night. We cooked some of the brats over the fire. There you go. And after dinner, we sat on the tailgate watching the fire and just talking until about 11 p.m. It didn't take long for us to both fall asleep, being all ready for the morning hunt. At around 3:30 a.m., I woke up to dead silence. It was so quiet that I figured there must be a black bear or a cougar really close by, but it didn't take but a minute for me to realize that it was way too quiet even for a predator to be close. I couldn't even hear the creak anymore. I reached over and shook my friend's leg to wake him up. He rolled over and asked what my problem was, and I said, "Do you hear that?" And he snapped back, "I don't hear anything. Go to sleep." I said, "Exactly. It's too quiet." He turned over and sat up and listened for a moment, then gave me a weird look. "That's what I'm trying to tell you," I whispered. Then, coming from the trees, you could hear footsteps. I said, "Do you hear that?" My friend whispered, "It must be a bear." I said, "Bears don't walk on two legs unless they're threatened or going after food above their heads. That's too big to be any black bear around here or anything else for that matter." The gravel on the road sounded like it was almost being crushed under its feet as it walks. Then we smelled it. It was like a garbage dump mixed with the odor of death. We sat there quietly as we walked around the truck. I think as he walked around the truck. Then the footsteps stopped on the driver's side of the truck bed. We hear the sound of cloth being torn above us. I looked up, and there were fingers. Human fingers, but about 4 times bigger than mine. It was tearing back the cloth. When it stopped pulling back the cloth, a good 8 inches in all, I could see 2 glowing yellow eyes looking down through the hole at me. That was the exact moment that I really screwed the pooch. Without thinking, and still trying to tell myself it's a stupid black bear, I reached over and in one smooth swing, I grabbed the closest fishing rod and followed through with the most power I could muster. I hit it right across the bridge of its nose. Well, I broke that rod in half and sent it stumbling backwards. At that point, it let out a scream or roar that shook everything inside the back of that truck. I could feel the vibration of my body as if I were standing next to an explosion. It was so loud that my ears were ringing. My friend really did mess himself. Then we heard 2 fast, hard steps, and it felt like a semi-truck smashed into the driver's side of the truck. And then, as if we were just a Tonka truck, the driver's side was lifted off the ground, and the truck was sliding towards the edge of the shoulder. I suddenly got this overpowering feeling of sadness, and I realized more than the pain of being hit in the face with 1.5 inch round piece of wood. I started yelling at it, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but you scared the hell out of us." Then the truck stopped sliding. At that moment, it dropped the truck back down on all 4 tires. And then I said, "Look, we just came up here to bag a few squirrels. We're going to leave." I promised we would leave as soon as the sun came up. It then let out what almost sounded like a whimper, which for it is still pretty loud, and we heard it walk off back across the road. Within a couple minutes, all the forest sounds came back. Needless to say, we did not poke our nose out from under that cloth until the morning. We gathered enough courage and come out of the truck after the sun was up. We saw that it had pushed the truck a good 3 feet towards the edge. You could clearly see the bent metal on the fender and running board, which it grabbed with its hands. Since that encounter, my friend still won't talk about it. Yikes. That is crazy. it actually picked up and moved this truck several feet. I don't know how much a truck weighs, but I imagine it's basically in the 1-ton range. So this thing actually lifted up the car and was pushing it sideways. 2 of the tires would still have been on the ground, I imagine. Or all of them. Maybe it was pushing all 4 tires. I don't know. But it kind of gives you an idea of the amount of force that these things just have available to them. That's terrifying. I mean, that's superhuman. I don't know how else you could put it, but that is crazy strong. I guess word to the wise, if you have a Bigfoot looking in your tent, don't smack it with a fishing pole. I think that's a good takeaway. And hope it can be appealed with, I guess. The fact that he apologized and then it just suddenly stopped and was like, all right, I'll get the hell out of here, And it just walked off. In no words at all, but just through its actions, it's like it understood. No, wait, I'm sorry. So, I don't know. It just didn't like being smacked in the nose with a fishing pole. And I can't say I blame it. But that's all kinds of balls to do something like that too, though, isn't it? We've only got 7 minutes left, and I don't think we got enough time for this. No, not really. So we're going to have to hold it there. But those are our journeys tonight through the paranormal portal. We've got just a few minutes left. Maggie agrees. Yep, don't hit him with a fishing pole. I wouldn't even hit him with a Louisville Slugger. I think the thing is when something is that so far off the scale, stronger than us, what would you be willing to lift to try? And if your life is in danger, then you got to do what you got to do. I mean, it's fight or flight. If you can't do the flight thing, you've got to fight somehow. But I mean, just knowing that there's that much strength and that much power, and who knows how tall this thing was, but if they're in the back of a pickup truck and it just grabbed the tent and would just peeled the canvas, I imagine, with no problem, and ended up looking in. I find the report of the glowing eyes interesting too, because it does seem to suggest bioluminescence to some degree, or they're seeing by some other measure than what we completely understand. But it makes me wonder, how is that possible? I mean, how can an eye give off light and still receive light? And I don't know. It makes you wonder how that works. What is the mechanics of that? Or is that just such a strong night vision that anything, even the most minuscule of light, will cause it to look glowy like that? Kind of like a bike reflector or something. It doesn't take much to make them just glow. And so maybe it's something like that they just gather so much light. That's why they see in the dark. I don't know. But it's a weird report. I've talked to a gentleman who was investigating in the Mogollon Ridge in Arizona, and he talked about how he camps and how he does it. And he doesn't use fire at all or anything. He just sits outside of his tent in the pitch darkness, not any light whatsoever except some starlight, and how he sees the red eyes. And these eyes are glowing. He said there's no source of light. I think the gentleman's name is Kevin Keeney. And he talks about how their eyes glow on their own accord. And it's fascinating to me, but I don't pretend to understand those mechanics of how that would work, but there must be something to it. Unless he was just, not being completely frank with me. But I interviewed him when I was guest hosting on Bigfoot Odyssey when Carrie couldn't make it. And he was an interesting guy, nice guy. And he seemed like he was being sincere. But I can't speak to his character, but just in a little bit I knew him, he didn't sound like he was just making up tall tales. I was just like, and they glowed. He's like, yeah, they glowed. There was no light whatsoever, but they glowed a fiery red. So he's seeing something. And again, it's another facet of the Sasquatch that I can't wrap my head around. And that's my problem with Sasquatch, is that so many people want to say that they know what it is. They know how it is. They know, behavior. They know where they're from. There's some There's the Nephilim idea. There's the, the forest people, the spiritual transdimensional guardian people. There's so many people that know what these things are, but yet there's so many. And I don't pretend to know anything. All I know is that I do believe people are seeing something very big. It does seem physical because it leaves footprints. It leaves hair samples. Is observed eating and consuming. So that's a very physical things. But there's also oddities with it. That tracks will just end in the middle of a field. How do you explain that? Where did they go? And there's no trees for them to just suddenly grab and go up into the trees. So what happened? And I don't know. There's the enigmas of all this. Weird but genuine question. Do you think Sasquatch sticker on a car would get noticed by them? That's a great take, Maggie. I don't know. Are they? I mean, they must know what they look like because they can identify each other, so they must know. I think so because I here's the reason why I say this. Because I think that there's many shows that put mirrors out in the forests. And these other animals, like a bear, for instance, there's this one of a grizzly bear, and it's absolutely terrifying. But they hung like a 4x8 mirror out in the forest, and it wasn't like glass. It was made of some metal so that it wouldn't shatter and become shards. But they put it out in the forest, and this bear comes lumbering by, and it kind of turns and smells, catches a look of another bear just so close to its own face. And it went right into defense mode and starts attacking. Rawr, rawr, rawr. And then it goes around looking for the bear, and it's not there. Comes around the front. Rawr, rawr, rawr. It keeps attacking its own reflection, but it does recognize what it looks like or what a bear looks like because he's defending his territory from this other bear. So if Sasquatch are as intelligent as we believe they are, then how much more intelligent than a bear are they? Now, I couldn't say that a bear could recognize a bear sticker, but it can recognize another bear. Obviously, other animals recognize each other. So if something was functioning on so much more of a mental acuity, could it recognize?
This is iHeartRadio.
Hold on.
iHeartRadio makes you want to move. When you have a great melody, a song is right.
Instantly connected.
I love it when the
right.
beat.
It does recognize that's, maybe it recognizes those derivative images and such. So food for thought. But anyway, that was the closing of the network show. It actually startled me. It's like, this is iHeartRadio. Ah! This is my aneurysm happening. So anyway, all right. That is the show for tonight, guys. I'm going to be back tomorrow night, of course. What am I missing here? Oh, thanks, Renee. You're doing the closing for me. But I hope you'll join me then. Maybe we'll do some ghost investigating because we haven't done it for a couple of weeks. Might be kind of fun to set up the equipment and see if we can catch some activity. I don't know. Just toying with the idea. Again, I've been shying away from it because it does become repetitive, even though it's all fascinating and awesome. I don't want to continue to do the investigations if I'm just going to be representing the same stuff happening over and over. Because even though it's all fascinating and incredible, it's still the same things we've already seen. So I was going to wait till I had newer things to investigate with, but maybe we'll do it tomorrow night. We'll see what I'm in the mood for tomorrow, but let me know in the comments if you'd like to see live spirit investigating tomorrow night. It's certainly not hard to do. I have all the equipment. It's just I don't want to keep bringing you the same shows if it's getting kind of played out. So anyway, I will close it there. So you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you all for joining. Stephanie, good to see you. Thank you for stopping in. Lady J. Homestead, good to see you. RJ Windwalker, Renee Cruz, Maggie. Wizard Moon's here. Yeah, Wizard Moon. Just won the T-shirt in the giveaway. I'm going to be mailing that off very soon, Wizard, so hang on to yourself. I'll email you when I actually send it off. Probably be tomorrow. Dawn is Wednesdays only. That's true. Yep. Dawn is Wednesdays only. Thank you, Lewis. Good to see you too, brother. Rachel, good to see you. Thank you to our mods who are amazing as always. Thank you so much for all the work you do keeping things running. Thank you to the members. Thank you to all of you who just click like on the streams. That means the world to me. And thank you to those who recommend the show to other people. So I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Thank you, Maggie. Take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And I'll see you tomorrow night. We'll do something, don't worry. We'll get into some paranormal fun. But let me know in the comments what you'd like to see tomorrow's show. Or send me an email or on Discord, whatever. Just like to hear your opinions. But anyway, that's all we got time for tonight, folks. Take care, and I'll talk to you then. Be good. Take care of yourselves. That is all over.